And we're back. So, what is the digital space and what makes it up? And what it really comes down to is fairly simple. It's about the web, social media, and mobile. Everything in digital marketing falls in one of those categories. And data is the gravity that holds everything together, that keeps this all together. So in terms of digital marketing operation, you as a consumer, what do? Well, you're going to interface with the internet somehow. And so that's your portal. And your portal, when you go on the web with an intent to purchase something or to get marketing information, it's either internet marketing where you're going to get your information, and so that's pop-ups and search engine and everything else. You're doing mobile marketing, and the way you make purchases is e-commerce. And all of that put together is referred to as e-marketing. It's that simple. And all of this sits on a CRM, which is a customer relationship management system. And I'll talk about that in lecture 5.5, I believe. There are over 5,000 companies. Actually, they're now in 2018, they reported over 10,000 companies in the marketing technology landscape. You can look this up online. I know this is nearly impossible to read, but I just wanted to get you a feel for the field. And the reason why there are so many companies is, quite frankly, nobody understands how to do it. For those of you who are more interested in code and things like this is what actually goes into a stack of, and MarTech means marketing technology. And so as you can see, they have the data analytics, and they have the pre-sales marketing where you're trying to find things, how you're going to coordinate your events and everything else. And so as you can see, all of this has to go together. So it's not trivial, although you can make systems as simple as possible. So in terms of engaging people, these are the elements that goes into a digital software stack. And so what it comes down to is you need to align your message and say it clearly. And do you have the right concept? Do you have something that's going to resonate with your customers? And as you can see, what they include here are also partners and sellers. How do they think the marketing is going to be disrupted? And so APIs is basically application software. And so digital transformation, the customer experience that you do digitally, they consider to be the number one disruptor of what's going to happen, more so than AI or anything like that. So again, this is about your creativity. How well do you know the customer? Now, is there too much digital marketing? And that's, you have a product and service, and you have all these channels now and all this different software and everything else. And what happens is it becomes clutter to you. It becomes noise and you lose interest. Again, you're fighting status quo, and status quo is greater than it's ever been. And so what we do know, though, is how we think and what limits our abilities to comprehend things. We just have so much capacity and speed that we go by. And so you're looking at 3.3 billion brands a day. I don't know about you, but I've built up defenses. Some of you may have built up visual blindness that you don't even see ads. You erase them. You have tricks to avoid ads. You're trying to keep yourself from being overloaded, and you develop apathy towards things. The first thing, what did people learn what to do? When TV came out and there was all this advertising, we went to the bathroom. That was our way of fighting it, instead of having to sit there. It's kind of sad. If you watch these like old TV programs from like the 70s or whatever, they have like 25 to 26 minutes of content in a 30-minute TV program, and now we have like 21. It's all ads now. So how do I get your attention? The way I get your attention is by touching on your values. And so I can do it through content, and that content can have very many different forms. Maybe go for utility, meaning I want to educate you about something that you're interested in it. Or maybe I send you something personalized or entertain you in some way. Again, that could do more with emotion. And so what is this all like? Brand building, right? And yes, Dr. Cho promised you that brand building would be very important, especially when we talk about this digital stuff, because it's your ability to touch the customer in different ways. Why does Geico have all those funny commercials? Some of them are really good. Some of them are, don't hit so well. Washington crossing the street to get to the Delaware. Anyway, they do that because, let's face it, insurance is boring. And because it's boring, we need to find ways to get your attention. In terms of digital strategy, it's about your customer, what are you aiming at, and how are you going to personalize it. That's how you make interface with people. So I make my goals, figure out who I'm going to target. How am I going to get traffic? I'm probably going to use a mix of channels. But ultimately, what is it that you're trying to do? You're trying to drive everybody to your website. Why? Because it's at your website where you're going to make your case. So whether it's mobile or social, that's what you want to do. Based on that feedback, you want to store their information. You want to respond to it. And then there's the churn. And what the churn is anytime I have to deal with customers, I'm going to lose some. I'm going to have to bring in new ones. Some go sit by the sideline. How do I get them re-engaged? And ultimately, it's what's my long-term value of my customer? How much are they worth to me? Because the bottom line is, now it's quite intense. How much of a profit do I make? I mean, you could talk about, we're engaging on these customers and everything else, but ultimately you have to turn it into dollars. The metrics you have are what techniques are going to use, how much are those techniques going to cost. I have to do A/B testing, experiments, see what works, what doesn't work. And in certain cases, maybe I don't get sales, but maybe I get something else, such as referrals or likes or shares. I can build credibility, and credibility goes into veracity. And I'm concerned about efficiency. How well am I converting? How much is it costing me to get every one of those customers? And so we talked about, in terms of data use, on the timeline compressing and what it's worth. And so, in detail, what are the pieces to the digital universe? And it's about content. It's about email, search engine optimization, social media, ads, which is where you're basically paying per every click, affiliates, third parties. For example, some blogger talks about your company. Now, they're not associated with you, but they're affiliates. Mobile, influencers. Influencers are so important. Remember, for two reasons. One, they have their own networks that you can tap into, so it's already built for you. And the second thing is that they give you credibility. And that's something, when you're a startup, you need a lot of. And you need credibility quite a bit, even if you do have sales, because a lot of people have never heard of you. And then there's still the other end of the universe. There's offline. I mean, you still like to hold events. You still want to meet people. Those things still count too. And a lot depends on what your product is. Again, digital channels are web, mobile, and social. And you're all pretty much familiar with this. So where's all the money going? People are putting money into mobile. There's still a place for display ads, and the reason why there's a place for display ads is, quite frankly, when you click on it, let's face it, it takes you a lot to want to click on an ad. And so that's a higher level of intent. So where does the money go? Well, what it comes down to is Google dominates the web and Facebook dominates mobile. Everybody thought Facebook was nuts for paying $1 billion to Instagram. Well, Instagram is now valued at $20 billion. So good move there. Where do people go for social networks? It's basically Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And so these are the top ones. As you can see, Facebook is continuing to grow. And so they're making their own presence felt in online ad market. Actually, if you click on Facebook, it is really, really easy to do Facebook ads, and it'll cost you like $20 to $50 a day. Now, $20 to $50 a day doesn't seem or sound like much, but when you're a startup, all of a sudden it's coming out of your pocket. This is the platform penetration that they're predicting going out into the future. These are how they're ranked according to activity, and more than half you millennials are on Instagram. And so how do I look at this, and how do I think about my strategy? And so you can just look at your phases of growth in your product development and just think about it. When I'm launching, which channels do I want to use? When I hit the chasm, what is my strategy? Again, you should think about it ahead of time. And then how am I going to grow? And so I have to think about what the nature of my product is. Am I better off for search engine or not? A lot of our students, they try to get on Amazon. Why? Because let's face it, if somebody is looking for something on Amazon, they're there to spend money. And so there's great efficiency. Not only that, Amazon's got a really good search engine. The problem is you're one of 2 million, other products on there. So how do I get around that? The way I need to get around that is that's why all of a sudden things like likes, the number of stars you get, that has a very big impact. And this is how products stand out on Amazon. You have so many unknown products there. So what do people do? They look at the reviews, and that's why you want people to leave you reviews, particularly good ones. Now, in terms of channels, there's a cost to it. And we'll start getting more into the costs in the next video.